feeling very small and insecure. How amazingly unlikely is your birth. And pray that there's intelligent life somewhere out in space, cause there's bugger all down here on Earth.
All right.
Welcome, killers, blackmailers, and lost boys, to the 249th episode of an Unearthly podcast, streaming live on the 14th of March, 2018, and featuring Torchwood Ghost Machine, written by Helen Raynor and starring John Barrowman as Captain Jack Harkness, Eve Miles as Gwen Cooper, Bern Gorman as Owen Harper, Naoko Mori as Toshiko Sato, and Gareth David Lloyd as Yanto Jones. I am Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, and with me are Mad Matt Winchell.
No, Vixie, I didn't spell it wrong. I literally got it off of DuckDuckGo.
Randy Ronson McCulloch.
Good evening.
Aaron Romeo Moon Burke.
Hello.
And Tim the Enchanter Sheridan.
Tim only pawn in Game of Life.
What's spelled wrong?
I was told that I spelled Stephen Hawking's name wrong. I'm pretty sure I literally copy and pasted his name right from DuckDuckGo.
What, on the opening?
Yeah.
Oh, it does look like the opening video spelled it wrong.
It's with a PH instead of a V.
And that's not what the search came up as.
I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure I've been looking. Yeah, it's PH. According to Wikipedia.
Because I searched it, Stefan, and I'm pretty sure it changed it to Steven. I don't know. I fucking give up at this point. I say one thing, it says another thing. I can't even figure it out. I literally Google searched it and copied and pasted it, and somehow it pasted it wrong. Don't ask me.
You know what you have to do now, Matt? You have to kill the internet.
Oh man.
Like,
Yeah.
No, seriously. I literally copied and pasted. I just had the tab open. I literally copied and pasted this, and it still spelled it as Steven, so they must have spell corrected it on me, which is fucking annoying.
Yeah, especially since, I've been spelling Stephen Moffat constantly for like 249 episodes now. And that's PH as well, so.
Steven Spielberg
I
gets
had it
spelled
right.
with a B.
Yeah, welcome to the English language. 100 ways to spell the same damn thing.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking
And then
pointless.
something spelled the same has 3 different definitions.
Yep.
Exactly. Screw this language. Let's go back to Greek.
No,
Oh,
let's
God,
all learn Esperanto.
Oh, fuck no. You can go to hell, Tim. You can go to hell and die.
But William Shatner likes it.
We should all speak in Klingon.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah. That would do it. Then we'd all choke on our own phlegm and die.
Beige.
Okay, so on tonight's show, we've got the news and birthdays, once again, typed up for faster talking convenience. Our Geek Talk section actually has quite a bit in it. Bill has been on spring break and has done quite a bit of watching. Some of which is catch-up, some of which is new, and I've been doing a bit of watching as well, so I'll have a little bit to talk with him there. I don't have a rant of the week unless you want me to rail on about how horrible dentists are. No review of shame, no comments. Then we've got our summary. our episode review, our final thoughts and ratings. And this time we're actually doing something that's been on TV. Although it's not technically Doctor Who, it's Torchwood. All right. So, moving on. Birthdays. And we've got 5 birthdays today over 2 days. The rest of the week, dead nothing. But these 2 days, and they're right next to each other, had all the birthdays. First one is on the 10th of March, and it's Yi So, who played Chang Li in the 1996 movie, turned 43. Moving on to the next day, the 11th of March, we have the birthday of John Barrowman, Captain Jack Harkness, who turned 51. Also on the same day is the birthday of Alex Kingston, who of course played River Song, turned 55. On the same day is the birthday of renowned writer, script editor of Doctor Who from 1979 to 1980, Douglas Adams, who would have been 66 but died in 2001 at 49. So long, Douglas, and thanks for all the fish. Finally, it is also the birthday of director Graham Harper, who directed Caves of Androzani in the classic series, as well as Rise of the Cybermen, Age of Steel, and Army of Ghosts Doomsday in the new series, amongst others. And he turned 73. So happy birthday to Graham, Douglas, Alex, John, and Yiji. Good luck. Well, and then we move from births to deaths, and we have a few deaths to report.
Yeah, quite a few. Well, quite a few. Okay, so let's begin with AUP sadly acknowledges the death of Dorka Nieradzik. At the age of 68, Dorka was a makeup artist on Doctor Who from 1980 to 1988 on 9 serials: The Leisure Hive, Logopolis, 4 to Doomsday, Time Flight, Vengeance on Varos, Revelation of the Daleks, Mind Warp, The Happiness Patrol, and Silver Nemesis. She also worked with various other BBC series and shows too numerous to count. She won a BAFTA for makeup in 1995 for the series Cold Comfort, and was honored with a special BAFTA for industry contribution in 2000. She died on the 12th of February and is survived by her father, her sister Anushya, and her brother David. Moving on, we'd also like to acknowledge the death of actor, singer, and comedian Ken Dodd at the age of 90. He was a 60-year music hall veteran and occasionally broadened his horizons by appearing in movies and shows like the 1987 Doctor Who episode Delta and the Bannermen. Shortly afterwards, he was accused of tax evasion, something that nearly ended his career. He was acquitted, but the legal fees involved left him working the stage for the rest of his life. In 2016, he was awarded a knighthood by the Queen for services in entertainment. Ken married his partner of 40 years, Anne Jones, 2 days before his death in the same house in Liverpool he was born in. And finally, is our deepest regret, we announce the death of Professor Stephen Hawking, the world-famous physicist and someone who is considered one of the greatest minds of our time. Born in Oxford and raised in London, Stephen was diagnosed with ALS while in graduate school at the age of 21 in 1963. At the time, he was given 2 years to live. He lapsed into a depression, but after he beat those odds, he continued to work and made many contributions to the field of astrophysics, and his book, A Brief History of Time, was a bestseller. Stephen Hawking was 76 when he died, 55 years after he was given a 2-year life expectancy.
He will be missed.
So even though he is under the age of 80, we can still say he had a good run.
Oh,
He
yeah.
had a massively good run considering the predicaments.
Yeah.
Yeah, considering he was expected to die before the age of 25, and he lived 50 years past that, although the last couple of years had been pretty miserable for him. So this was not an unexpected death.
All right. So I guess we have some episode news from previous episodes. Back in the 1960s, Graham Strong, at the age of 14, did something many thought impossible. Strong managed to wire the audio output of his television directly into the input of his reel-to-reel tape recorder. This impossible lash-up resulted in crystal-clear audio recordings of Doctor Who in the 60s. After holding on to them for over 50 years, Graham has generously donated them to the BBC archives. These audios are in many cases superior in quality to the ones kept by the BBC, and they will be used to replace the existing ones in future DVD Blu-ray releases.
Sweet.
Now, many of you may be thinking that's, gee, he wired an output to an input. That's not really a big deal. It was in 1963.
Because they didn't really exist that much.
Because TVs weren't designed to do that.
Mm-hmm. You had to manually do that yourself.
So now they have another excuse to re-release a whole bunch of classic stories.
Well, some of them had already been used. He had given them for use for certain ones, but now they can do that with any of the ones that they have inferior audio for. So that's just good. That's just good that now the BBC archives have those.
Yep, he's essentially giving them some extra copies so that they can have lots of clean audio now, instead of just a couple of them.
It means that they won't have... I mean, some of the DVDs out there have been really scrubbed, so this will hopefully make it better. Anyway, moving on.
Alan Cumming announced in the Homo Sapiens podcast, "I'm about to do an episode of Doctor Who. I'm so excited." He went on to say, "I'm James the First," and also teased that they said he might come back. Apparently, this got Alan in a bit of hot water, as the BBC told him after the podcast that his role was supposed to be a secret. Oops. Sorry, BBC. Wasn't Alan Cumming the one who said he would never go to Cardiff?
I don't remember. I honestly don't remember. He might have been. Somebody
said that. Yeah.
Somebody said that. I just don't remember if it was Alan Cumming.
Oh. Moving on, according to social media reports, the Doctor Who team are on location again, this time at the Castle Manor Hotel in Newport. This may not be the first time they've been there. They were back in Cardiff for a couple of weeks, and filming may progress to the next block. Maybe, maybe not. No director has been confirmed for the next filming block.
Basically, we don't know about this other, but social media has confirmed they've been at the Castle Hotel. And some people have said they've seen them there before, so... That part's a question mark, but
that might be their hotel get-together before they head off to somewhere, though, so...
Yeah, it might be that. It might be that, or they might be transition scenes.
Mm-hmm.
If they're doing the fact that they're going back to the same location over and over again with the new companions, the Castle Hotel may be where they fill in for those particular scenes. Just like What's-Its-Face filled in for the Powell estate during the Russell T Davies era. That kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Either that, or maybe with everything that's going on, it might be Earthbound mostly this season, so that might be the equivalent of their HQ base. If it's like a unit-esque season, that might be the equivalent of HQ, you know? Never know. I'm just guessing.
Throw ideas
we don't
to the
know
wall.
Anything about...
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll throw stuff against the wall and see what sticks when the season comes. Anyway, we're moving on to cast and crew news.
Okay. Start with Michelle Gomez, who is so adamant on retiring Missy after the Series 10 finale, may be changing her tune. In a recent interview with Doctor Who magazine, Michelle said that, "I think it's going to be really hard to shake this one off. Missy has made quite a big impression on me and hopefully on the fans as well. She was such a great fit. Even though for now she has been laid to rest, I don't think she's ever going to be that far away. I loved playing this character so much, and it was really hard to see her go, but I think that in many different shapes and forms, she will be back. I can't really say much more than that. I have never had this response to anything else that I've done, and I'm really grateful for that."
Might mean that she's coming back to the series. It might mean that she'll move on to Big Finish. We don't know.
Right.
But
might also mean that Michelle Gomez is just throwing it out there that, hey, you want me back?
Yeah. You may move on from Doctor Who, but Doctor Who never really leaves you.
Mm-hmm.
Christopher Eccleston recently sat down with The Guardian and talked about his life just after leaving Doctor Who. He says, "What happened around Doctor Who? What happened around Doctor Who almost destroyed my career." He says, "I gave them a hit show and I left with dignity, and then they put me on a blacklist. I was carrying my own insecurities as it was something I had never done before, and then I was abandoned, vilified in the tabloid press, and blacklisted. I was told by my agent at the time, the BBC regime is against you. You're going to have to get out of the country and wait for regime change. So I went away to America and I kept on working because that's what my parents instilled in me. My dad always said to me, I don't care what you do, sweeping the floor or whatever you're doing, just do the best job you can. I know it's cliched and northern and all that bollocks, but it applies." He also talked a bit on the work he did while in America. Working on something like G.I. Joe was horrendous, he says, emphasizing that the responsibility was his and not anyone else's. "I just wanted to cut my throat every day. And Thor, just a gun in your mouth. Gone in 60 Seconds was a good experience. Nick Cage is a gentleman and fantastic actor, but G.I. Joe and Thor were, I really paid for being a whore those times."
I'd never gone
Ouch.
60 Seconds. That was actually a pretty good movie. And yeah, those other two were kind of.
Yeah, but it's kind of apparently Christopher Eccleston should just stay away from geek roles because apparently he doesn't enjoy them.
Apparently, yeah.
He's had nothing but bad experience with everything that we would call geek watching.
And apparently the BBC have a secret police. Or at least
Apparently.
that's what he seems
I'm
to think.
technically
Not
not
so much-
surprised.
Not so much a secret list as they keep a list. Hollywood does the same thing. If you're on the Hollywood blacklist, you don't work in Hollywood.
Yeah, for
And
some
apparently-
reason BBC blacklisted him, even though he totally made a show for them.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm-
this kind of makes him sound almost like a prima donna, but at the same time, I really didn't see him on anything in BBC.
No, and they probably did blacklist him. The thing is that he was at odds with Russell T Davies and Julie Gardner, and it got him on the bad side of the BBC.
Possibly.
That's
That might
pretty
have part
much,
of it.
yeah, that's pretty much what we know happened. That's why he left Doctor Who, he was basically having a fight with Russell T. And
Yeah,
if he was fighting with Russell T, he was fighting with Julie, because those two kind of were a pair.
Yeah, and what was it? He wanted to do the Doctor a certain way.
He
He
wanted,
wanted to do it very dark.
Oh, okay.
and or actually no, he wanted to do it more funny.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
He
I thought
was
Was
he
he?
wanted
was
to do it
he
more-
was he was known for.
Oh,
his
that's right.
dark-
He wanted to do more funny, and he was known for doing it dark, and they forced the dark on him. That's right.
Yes.
Mhm.
All right. So, moving on to the awards section, Bonnie Langford, aka Mel, has been nominated in the One Voice Awards for Best Performance in an Audiobook Fiction for her part in the Doctor Who audio drama The Blood Furnace, written by Eddie Robson and released this past August. Sean Carlson, Narvin from Gallifrey, was also nominated for a One Voice Award in the category of Best Performance in Demo Reels Male. Helen Goldwyn, multi-role Big Finish staff, and Claire Wyatt, who appeared in Torchwood 1 Machines, have been nominated in the category of Radio Drama Best Performance Female. Wyatt is also up for Voiceover Artist of the Year. The winners of these will be announced on the 28th of April, so tune in a little over a month, and we'll probably have the results. Okay, moving on to video. Aaron, that's you.
Okay, so we are going down here. Okay, BBC Worldwide has announced that Series 3 of Doctor Who is next to be released in Blu-ray Steelbook Edition on May 7th. The 3-disc set features HD upscaled episodes of the series, plus the extras originally released with the 2007 DVD collection.
No
Uh,
news on how much that's going to cost yet, by the way.
Yeah.
A pretty penny.
Real Time Pictures has released more of its the Doctor's collections on DVD. The Sylvester McCoy years is coming up on June 18th and includes 6 documentaries, interviews with McCoy, Sophie Aldred, and more. It's presented by Nicholas Briggs. It'll be available on Amazon.co.uk for $14.99 in pounds. The Doctor's The Colin Baker Years will be coming out later this year on September 3rd, to be precise. No further information has been released as of yet, except that it too will be £14.99.
Yes.
From Amazon.co.uk.
All right. Tim?
Alrighty. Okay, so moving on to audio. Phantom Publishing is adding 2 new additions to their Who Talk series of commentaries. The Web of Fear gets a commentary track, one of the final from the late Deborah Watling, who talks about it, and the still missing Fury from the Deep. Missing episode hunter Phil Morris is also on the commentary track. Also on the list is Survival, the last episode of Doctor Who.
Doctor
Sophie
Who Classic.
Aldred... Yep.
I forgot to say classic.
of classic Doctor Who. Yes. Doctor Who is still making new episodes, so don't worry. Sophie Aldred provides commentary and is joined by author Rona Munro. These tracks can be bought directly from the Who Talk website, whotalk.co.uk, for £10.99 each on CD or £9.99 download. They can also be purchased as part of a set together in a special edition for £39.99.
Now, considering the fact that you can buy both on CD for essentially £22, there better be something special in that edition for paying £40 for the both of them. Just saying. If all you get is them in a collection, fail. Moving on. Bill.
Okay, story details are now available for the May 2018 Big Finish unit box set Cyber Reality. Series 6 will feature a Lost at Sea story, a Tron adaptation, and a 2-part Cyberman invasion featuring, quote, a new paradigm to expand the cyber race. In the final story, the Master arrives at the hour of Earth's greatest need, but he really doesn't care. Unit Cyber Reality's full details can be found on BigFinish.com, where it can be pre-ordered for £23 on CD or £20/$20 on download.
Okay, so that would be the finish of our news, except we have a couple of things from the rumor mill. There are a couple of interesting things. One is a speculation coming out of Cultbox that brings us the question, will the new series of Doctor Who be released in one go for Netflix-style binging? Based on current timetables, it's likely that the entire season will not only be fully filmed, but also finished with its post-production work by the beginning of October. This is a rarity for Doctor Who, where usually only about the first half is done by the time they start, and the second half is just entering post. This brings us the question, is this because of a change in release format, or just unusual efficiency? Adding to the speculation is the overall trend towards more online and on-demand views, and less same-night views per episode, as well as the chronic problem of Strictly Come Dancing messing with Doctor Who air times. Showrunner Chris Chibnall has been quoted as saying, the whole way it'll roll out will be different. But Cultbox admits that it's easy to read way too much into these things. If you remember, a week or two ago, we also posted speculation that Doctor Who may be moving to Sunday nights instead of Saturday. Both at this point are purely speculation based on just trends that we're seeing. Okay. So the next piece of rumor, and this comes from the Mirror, so it's
Super
definite
duper rumor.
Yeah, it's definite rumor mill territory here. Has brought us some potential information on Series 11. The rumor has it that Series 11 will be moving in their next production block to India to begin filming. If the report is to be believed, 30-year-old Mandip Gill and 25-year-old Tosin Ghol's characters, Yasmin and Ryan, will be teenagers. Okay, that's going to be a little hard to swallow. They also report that Series 11 will feature 3 period pieces / historicals and 3 stories set in the future, with the rest in present day. Always with the Mirror, again, please remember that this can be pure, absolute talking out their ass.
Yeah.
We don't know. They usually cite, they didn't even cite anybody in this article. They just said. they usually cite a insider source, which, has meant absolutely nothing in the past. So take it with a grain of salt. They could be right. They could be wrong. I would say don't expect it until you actually hear confirmation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it for the rumor mill this evening. We're going on to our Geek Talk section, on which we have quite a bit of. Bill has been watching streaming television over a spring break, and the first thing he wants to talk about is Jessica Jones, which both he and I have seen. I've at least seen half of it.
So Jessica Jones season 2 is it's after Defenders, but it doesn't really feature any crossovers. Trying to think of what I can say that's not a spoiler.
Yeah, I know.
It's
how would you feel about it in comparison to like the first season?
I would say I enjoyed the first season more, partially because the first season is a bit more of a clear-cut hero and villain. Even though Jessica's very much a reluctant hero, there's still a definite good and bad. Season 2 is more of a noir in the sense that there's good and bad in pretty much every side, and there's really no objective way to look at it. I can't really necessarily say darker, considering some of the stuff the Purple Man did, but there's more of a comic booky, somewhat cartoony feel when you get someone like the Purple Man that's kind of absent in season 2, which, while it still has those comic book sci-fi elements, they're not as extreme, so you kind of see the real life side of it a bit more. I definitely think, if you enjoyed season 1, you'll probably enjoy season 2, and vice versa. If you didn't enjoy season 1, you probably won't enjoy season 2. Jessica is still pretty much, even though she undergoes development and you see different parts of her life, she's still very much the same character.
I would actually say that you actually do see a bit more development in season 2.
No, yeah, you do, but she's still pretty, her personality hasn't changed all that much.
She's a little more social, and she's not as in the hole bleak as she was in season 1.
I definitely enjoy her a lot more this season. She's a little more personable.
Yeah, it seems like she's actually trying to better her life, even though life keeps, throwing screwballs in her direction.
Right.
But she actually seems to be trying a bit more. That is to say that she's not still, wallowing in alcohol and depression half the time, but at least you get to see a little bit more of her attempting to bring her life together.
You do get to see some young Jessica back when she had that that muscle, what do you call it, smiling?
Yeah. That weird facial twinge.
Yeah.
I've only seen about half of this series, but I've also noted, I don't know. I think that everyone deserves to be happy, but at the same time, I hate that they tend to force main characters to have families and stuff like that, and have the happy home life with the little white picket fence and everything. And
I don't know. There's not much of that that we can see in this.
Not
It's
yet.
just Marvel.
Anyway,
as soon as you get that white picket fence, it'll suddenly get burned down.
Especially Netflix Marvel.
I mean,
I think that the happiest ending we've gotten in Netflix Marvel is probably Luke and Claire. Actually, no, they got separated at the end of the season.
Yep.
So yeah.
I don't even remember what happened with Claire. She's usually in every series at some point. She shows up. She's kind of one of the connecting.
Was she in JJ season 1? Because I was trying to remember.
Yes, she was.
Okay.
Briefly,
that's right. She
but
treated Luke when he got. Okay.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But what I can say with really outright spoiler is, in general, Jessica starts dealing with more of her past, a past she really doesn't like looking at, and that's pretty much all I can say without going into definite spoiler territory.
And a demon from Trisha's past comes back, and I also won't go any farther into that.
No,
yeah. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's going on, and it's connecting a lot of what seem to be different isolated bits from the first season. Like I said, Aaron and I are only about halfway through, but I remember sitting down and just watching. That's like, hey, look, the new Jessica Jones is up, and I just started watching, and I think that was our entire day.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think we had to turn off because we had a stream that night. I think that was like last Thursday or something. Turned it on, and it just we didn't that, and then I didn't watch anymore because Aaron had work, and then basically we did different stuff yesterday and today because it slipped my mind that was still going on. I've got Star Wars on the brain right now, and speaking of which, let's move on to Rebels season 4, the basically the finale of Rebels.
Yes, the finale of Rebels. And that's another one where most of the things I would want to say have to do with like the last 5 minutes, which is definitely spoilery.
We can say one thing. At least in my opinion, it was a very bittersweet ending.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
It reminded me, and this may spoiler it to anybody that cares, but it reminded me a bit of the ending of Deep Space Nine. Except, of course, they then went into a kind of a Breakfast Club style, what everybody did afterwards.
They did, and some of the decisions they made with that really didn't make any sense to me. Because it seemed like they were forgetting about other character subplots. They do lead into basically kind of set up what appears to be potentially a new series, and we do know that Disney has trademarked the name of Star Wars Resistance, so
yes,
that's very possibly the next show, but that's not confirmed.
That's not confirmed. That could just be Disney wanting that trademark
to keep other
in
people
the eventuality that they will eventually want to do a series on it.
I also remarked when I first saw the news that the name was very reminiscent of something Dark Horse would have named a comic series back in the day. So it could be a new Marvel comic series.
It could just, like I said, it could just be something that they're thinking about wanting to do eventually.
Yeah.
But I would suspect that there would be at least one series between that and Resistance. You basically have a good period of time after episode 6 that they could fill in a series before Resistance would start, you know? Actually, even 2 series, because they could do that series, Republic, and Resistance.
I haven't read any of the novels set in between, so I don't know how long it takes for the Empire to become the First Order and the Rebellion to become the Resistance. So for me, it could potentially just be right after this finale, but I don't know.
Oh, no, it's not right after this finale.
Okay.
I know following episode 6, following the Battle of Endor, it takes about a full year for the Empire to fully break.
Well, this finale is set a few. That last one scene is set a few years after that battle.
No, it's this. The scene is. I expected the scene was actually shortly after Endor.
Everything I've seen has. I mean, I didn't catch it in dialogue, but everything I've seen from people talking about it and people talking about interviews, I haven't seen a direct quote, but everyone seems to be indicating that it's 10 years later and that's why a certain character looks much older.
Well, I can't really say there, but because you got to remember that there was a 5-year difference, 4 to 5 year difference between when this ended and Endor. Yeah. You have to go through all 3 of the original Star Wars movies to get to Endor. So from my thought, it looked like it could have been 5 years. 5 years aging in my thought. And, it could be a year or 2 after Endor, but I didn't think it was 10 years ahead.
Yeah, because from the original movie to Empire is 3 years, and then a year after that to get to Jedi.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, it's about 4 to 5 years, depending on which timeline you look at.
Yeah, if I knew exactly where the 10 years date was coming from, I'd be able to answer with more authority. I just know that's what everyone that I usually trust to know what the hell they're talking about is saying.
And then there's another year after Endor to this one battle, which breaks the back of the Empire completely, unbeknownst to them. And that's the point that basically the New Republic is fully formed for a while.
Yeah.
And then that eventually is replaced by something else, but that was a peaceful governmental shift. And meanwhile, the First Order is formed from the very shattered fragments of the Empire coalescing somewhere off the map. And then you have years of them striking back to get to where they were at the beginning of Episode 7.
Cool.
From what I've read, because like I said, I'm doing a Star Wars tabletop game.
And we
set
got a
in
bit
that
off topic there.
Post
Yeah.
Episode 6 era, but
Rambly.
a little bit. But no, I mean, it's just trying to figure out where this episode, where this is leading to. But no, it was a decent ending. But mind you, it was a pretty emotional run through the last few episodes of this series. And it kind of a few times went way off. It's like, where the hell are they going with this? Kind of thought.
Mhm.
Like, I can't say anything for spoilering.
I
it
will
for
say
people.
I don't think this is too much of a spoiler. I'm not a huge fan, and I understand why they did it because this is kind of how the series started. But I'm not a fan of the fact that they kind of made Ezra go and become the singular hero at the end, which he pretty much is throughout the episode. Like, he's calling all the shots throughout the whole episode. So that's not a spoiler of the end moment. That's the entire episode is that way. I'm not really a fan of that because I definitely prefer Rebels more when it's an ensemble than when it's, Ezra is some kind of chosen one, because he's really not.
Well,
and I'm not a huge fan of the Ezra personality most of the time anyway.
I think he was told what to do. And again, I can't really say much because I'm not just wanting to spoiler the end. I don't want to spoiler this entire season.
Right.
Because it hasn't hit Netflix yet. This only is aired on Disney XD. So I can't. I know I have a friend that would basically pound me into the ground up to my knees head first, should I spoiler any of this season. So I don't want to say anything about what happens.
Yeah, there's especially the two major episodes that are the 2 weeks prior to this one.
Mm-hmm. But needless to say, there's something else that was calling the shots behind the scenes that led to a couple of major moments this season. And I'm pretty sure that's what was that gave Ezra basically this whole thing of what would happen, what you'd have to do. So I don't think it was just Ezra that was doing that, but it was, like I said, it was bittersweet. And although there is an interesting thing that was pointed out for me, and this is kind of this is almost a spoiler. If you go back to the end of the last season, Bill, and you listen to what Tom Baker's character, I can never remember, the Bendu,
Yeah.
said to Thrawn before he disappeared, you realize how long ahead of time they had this ending planned. Yeah, it was...
Okay, I'll check that back out. I don't really remember that conversation much.
Oh yeah, I had to go back and watch it because I had that revealed to me by Bob, and he was just like, "Oh yeah, you wouldn't believe this." And I'm like, "Oh wow, that's awesome." So, yeah. It's a definite watch if you've watched the rest of the season. If not, and you're a Star Wars fan, why haven't you been watching? So yeah, it's definitely, this is Star Wars canon. This has happened within the Star Wars universe. Watch it and learn. Okay, Bill, you had Voltron season 5?
Yes. So Voltron season 5, I'm pretty sure that, like the last one, this was a shorter season. And And I think part of it is I think I just enjoy Voltron a lot more when I'm binging a lot of episodes at once. This was a few at once, so it kind of I don't think it hit me as well as as the first 3 seasons did. Otherwise, I mean this season does take us in the series kind of in a new direction. It's probably I mean it's not a major spoiler because it's kind of the way it starts off, but they're working together with Lotor toward a kind of a mutual end, and toward a goal that he specifically thinks will solve all of their problems.
Yeah, that's going to work well.
Mm-hmm. There is one major event that I did not expect to happen that affects the war effort in the Galra Empire.
Don't spoil it because
no,
I
I
will watch
won't.
that I will watch that at some point in the next month.
Overall feeling, I mean, I would say I don't feel like I enjoyed any given episode less than before. I might have just been more distracted. I just didn't feel as into it as when I watched the first few seasons. But again, it might just be longer seasons versus shorter seasons might be the difference for me. I don't know, but I think it was all right all around.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with season 4, so I'll probably enjoy this part of it. It's good to know. All right, so you finally went out to see Black Panther.
Yes, I went to see Black Panther. And I was taking some notes for a paper I need to write for class, and I was kind of thinking of some other things that don't need to be in that paper, but that might almost inspire me to write another paper because there's a lot of parallel. Like you can definitely take a lot of what's going on there as kind of symbolism of a suggested course for if the U.S. was in the place of Wakanda, but without going all academic and taking half an hour. I enjoyed it. I think the biggest difference with this is that there's not really any MCU cameos of superheroes until the second end credit sequence. That said, there is a character that, from the way they reference him, I'm guessing he was a character that I just ignored in Civil War, but was there the whole time. Is that correct? You probably know who I'm talking about.
I know who you're talking about, but I can't answer your question.
Gotcha.
Because it's been a little too long since I've watched Civil War.
Well,
and I think I only saw Civil War once.
Oh, actually, come to think of it, I think Martin Freeman was on the cast list for Civil War, so I'd say yes, he probably was there the whole time. And I just didn't pay much attention to him back then. Altogether, I've no point talking about what other articles have written, especially when they know more than I have. But I will say, definitely looked great. The story I didn't really think was anything all that special. You made comparisons to The Lion King, which is pretty apt. And in general, like a lot of the story elements aren't exactly new. I think they put things, they audio visual. I think they did a great job, and there are some fairly unique things in the story in the sense that they really did go all out and embracing African culture instead of Americanizing it. But in terms of story structure, there weren't really any twists or anything unexpected that didn't really fit neatly into expected story structures. I would still recommend it, but it's definitely not the 12 out of 10 hype that some would say, except maybe for people who are tired of being underrepresented in movies that are more represented in this one, of course.
Yeah, you're kind of on par with me. I enjoyed it. By all means, I enjoyed it. I don't think it's the best MCU movie yet, but I think it's pretty good.
Right. Top half, I'd say.
Oh, yeah. But for what I've seen, I think I enjoyed the original Avengers movie more. Just because of the whole teamwork and, I like you said, I like ensembles better. So I am actually kind of thinking that Infinity War is going to rock. But
Well, they
Just
allow you to kind of imagine what the other characters are going through more instead of just, point blank showing them. You get to see a little variety in personalities.
Mm-hmm.
all right. So that's the end of our Geek Talk section. Unless
Cool.
anybody had anything else that they wanted to talk about. Anybody? Anybody? Bueller?
Sure.
Anybody?
I've been playing a mod on Conan Exiles. It's interesting so far, but fairly complicated.
We almost went back and tried Prime Rift this morning, but that didn't pan out.
Stupid maintenance.
Yeah.
Well, at least we know for the future anyway.
Yeah, no streaming Rift on a Wednesday.
Well, Wednesday morning anyway.
Yeah.
I might do it early afternoon, like about 2 o'clock.
As long as we don't have to go to the grocery store. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go to our summary for tonight's episode. And
I
who's
think it's my turn.
okay?
Are we doing any clock or anything?
No, not anymore.
Okay.
Don't need to, but I'll still time it anyways.
Okay. So want to give me a countdown then?
3, 2, 1, start.
Right. The episode starts with Gwen, Owen, and Yanto chasing a perp while Tosh coordinates from HQ. They get separated and Gwen manages to grab the perp's bag, but the owner gets away. Gwen is apologizing for losing the guy, while Tosh says it's actually okay, she got what she was chasing for. She pulls an alien device out of the bag and finds herself being transported to the 1940s, where she sees a lost young boy, hears his thoughts, and feels his feelings. Gwen explains what she saw to the others, and Owen hand-waves it away as neurological trauma. Still, Gwen remembers the name of the kid from the event, so they look him up and find the man and go have a chat with him. He was someone who was evacuated to Wales during the London Blitz, and that was his younger self that Gwen saw. Owen then tries out the device himself and witnesses a murder. He wants to bring the killer to justice, but Jack doesn't fully trust the alien device and knows that it doesn't count as legal testimony. They'll look into it some more later. Owen takes it on himself to look up the people who were questions about the murder, finds the man from the memory, walks into his house, and accuses him of murder. The man kicks Owen out, yelling about how he won't get anything from him, and Owen then finds the boy from the day before and chases him down. Jack and Tosh come and join them, and the boy, Bernie, tells him about how he got the device and how he used it to blackmail an old lady. They go to leave, and Bernie says, "What about the other half?" and shows them the half which lets you see the future. Gwen holds the device and sees herself in the future, seeing her future self describing Owen with a knife and how she couldn't stop it while her hands were covered in blood. Through splitting up, the team finds that Bernie was attempting to blackmail the killer, which is what caused his response to Owen earlier. Owen wants to kill him, the killer, but Gwen takes Owen's knife. The man lunges forward to hug Gwen, thanking her for saving him, and impales himself on the knife. Tosh speculates that the man, who had made several suicide attempts in the past, wanted to die and would have found a way not to survive the scenario no matter who was there. Yanto then locks the ghost machine in the archives because, as Jack says, it is too dangerous to be kept available.
That's it?
Yep.
About 2 minutes, 25 seconds.
Yep. So guess what? We get to talk about good aspects of the episode, and we get to talk about visuals too.
Yay!
When was the last time we talked about visual?
About
Only
over a
in my
month.
mind.
Yeah. All right. So speaking of that, Matt, you're up first.
Oh.
What did you like most about the episode overall?
What did I like most about the episode overall? Trying to think. There's actually a lot of stuff I really liked about this episode. I'm just trying to decide which one I want to try and go with. I like the murder mystery aspect of it. There's a lot of interesting intrigue where they're trying to look up these people that they're randomly seeing through the visions through the device. And it was
Right.
nice to actually see them do some like actual legwork once in a while in the show, and trying to figure out what went down and how these alien things are working, as well as trying to figure out what they're ending up seeing in particular with this particular device in their hands.
So I do like the fact that they kept trying to look. Like, yeah, we'll have to do a whole search on this, and then just freaking freaking Owens just lists off their name and address and goes, "It's in the phone book."
Mhm.
Also,
basic
with the
detective
legwork that they're doing for the one half, I also like the twist of the other half where they have to try and play by ear and hope that things turn out all right.
All right, Aaron, what about you?
I like the relationship between Gwen and Jack. Like, she's not, he's obviously coming on to her in the gun scene, but she's like, listen, I've got a boyfriend, he's expecting me home at any time, and
That's really what you read in that?
What? Really?
Yeah. This part of the series in particular was kind of a will they, won't they flirting.
Yeah,
And it was
it
back and
seems
forth.
like Torchwood in general just didn't know what direction they wanted to go with that, and just kind
Yeah.
of played it up to go either way at all times.
Yeah, and she says point blank that, just remember I have a boyfriend, he's expecting me home.
That's more like look at the time, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And and then I don't know, they're like sitting there watching the suns. No, it was watching the sunrise, wasn't it?
Watch the very end of the
At the end
episode.
of
They
the
watch the
episode,
sunrise. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, well, mind you, I mean, this is the third episode of the first season, so not knowing where they're going is a very common thing.
Mhm.
All right, Bill, how about you? What did you like about the episode? Remember,
so
we're on
Matt touched on the mystery in general, so I think I'll do the part that's a little different from a mystery, but kind of related. That whole like That's So Raven subplot toward the end with they're like, oh, what actually is going on in the future, and trying to figure that out. And of course, they did fall into the trope of, oh, you try to prevent it, so that causes it. But I think it was still fairly well done.
All right. Tim, how about you?
I loved the spiritual aspect of this episode, and the idea it explored about emotions, like leaving impressions in like time and space that can be felt by other people. I love it, like when like the usually like hardcore science Doctor Who like sort of like brushes up against like mysticism almost, and I felt this was a good example of that.
Doctor Who is not known for its hardcore science.
Well, not hardcore science, but like rationality or something. What I'm trying to think of is like it's usually an extreme version of the Scooby-Doo syndrome where the ghost is always a man in a mask, or like the ghost is never a ghost, or like if when Doctor Who meets someone claiming to be the devil, it's not the devil.
It's an alien.
Yeah.
Yeah, science fiction and fantasy collide, or science fiction and science fantasy, you think, maybe?
Yeah.
There is a mystical reason. It's kind of like what was it, the first season with episode 2 with the Gelf coming up out of the rift, and they're like, well, there's ghosts flying around, London, and no, they're just aliens that live off of gas. So, and which is also kind of similar to the whole alien wormhole aliens versus the prophets in Deep Space Nine. Been watching a lot of Deep Space Nine.
That's because it's on every night at 9 on H&I.
I gotta get back into that.
Oh, I always said DS9 was the best of the Star Treks, but that's me. So what did I like about the episode? I really liked the guest star in this episode, but that should have gone without saying. If you don't know who I'm talking about the actor who played Ed Morgan. That, by the way, is Gareth Thomas.
The older version of him, I take it?
Yes. Yes, the one that you see in the house at the end, that's Gareth Thomas, who's better known as being Raj Blake from Blake 7. And it was great to see him again, and I thought he did a great job of showing someone who was off his kilter a little bit.
A wee bit.
And plagued by basically his past. I thought he did a good job of that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so what didn't you like about the episode overall? And Matt, you're up first.
Why I didn't like overall? I'm trying to think of any major complaints, and I'm not thinking of anything at the moment, so I'll let you know if I think of something.
All right, so Matt passes. Aaron.
Yeah.
Overall, what I didn't like?
Yeah.
I think maybe the chase scenes were like a little rough. They weren't quite that polished. And it was kind of, I don't know. We've seen them in Torchwood before, but these didn't kind of ring as genuine.
Although, had
much.
we at that point, this
I don't know.
might
This
be
was kind of early.
Yeah,
I thought that Gwen ran away from the Weevil in season 1.
maybe.
Like,
Maybe.
No,
maybe
I
in
think
that.
she chased after it, I thought.
Oh, okay.
In the first episode, but I don't know.
I'm not sure about
I thought the
episode
one
2.
where Owen was chasing that kid was actually pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah.
It was actually,
there's a man in the yard.
there's 2 of them. It was almost like Hot Fuzz-esque
See,
for a
I-
moment.
Yes.
I couldn't hear the kid clearly, so for a second I was wondering if she was speaking Welsh.
Yeah, and the one part where Captain Jack is like, open the gate. I'm like, why would anyone open the gate for Captain Jack? For all they know, he's just some random crazy dude running through the mall.
Well,
Well, he
he's
is,
obviously chasing
but-
it after the people that just ran through here.
Or maybe he said
He
said
might have
it
been
with
talking
enough...
to Tosh.
Mhm.
Yeah. He could have been that. Yeah, probably, because I didn't really see anyone around that was, opening the gate.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think he was calling for her to open the gate and let them through.
Okay.
All right, Bill, how about you?
I didn't really like Bernie.
I don't know. He
But
seemed he
In
seemed
terms
your
of
pretty.
general aspects, I would say he was the least likable thing.
He seemed pretty much your run-of-the-mill Asbo to me. And that's the thing. He didn't actually die in this, did he?
Nope.
So they did
He-
manage
he-
to change that.
They managed to change that. He almost got stabbed.
Mm-hmm. So, no, he seemed your pretty run-of-the-mill Asbo to me, so I didn't really find him annoying or anything. Tim, how about you?
I know this is probably like a time thing, but it would have been nice to have seen every member of Torchwood use the device at one point.
It would have been,
Yeah.
It would have
but yeah,
been
that would,
taken a while though.
yeah,
They would
but,
have probably had to start, if they had skipped if they hadn't had as elaborate of a plot and they had skipped the opening chase scene and kind of started with her holding the bag, that might have been possible, but it would have been a different.
By the way, it
different
wasn't
sort
a
of
bag. It
plot.
was the guy's jacket.
yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought she was holding a backpack during that scene when Tosh was looking through the CCTV.
No, she was.
No,
she
check
ran out and she grabbed him by the coat, and he just
And
shot out of
he
his
just
coat.
slipped out of the coat and kept his hoodie on and ran.
Mhm. But no, I mean, the problem is that Gwen used it like 2-3 times. It would have been nice to see like
Yeah.
Toshiko use it on one of those, and Gwen use it on another, and then of course
Mhm.
Owen had his.
Or like if Yanto was the one who saw the future or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, actually, I do have something to comment, by the way.
Hmm.
I do have something I didn't like. Um, I felt actually that the Gwen and Jack scenes were a little bit clunky. Maybe it is due to the fact that they are trying to figure out the relationship, but they came off really clunky for a good half of that scene. In particular, the gun training scene. It's just like, oh come on, this is so forced and silly.
That's a specific scene.
Yeah,
But-
really, you should have
But
kept that for worse scenes.
it's not just that scene though. I'm saying it's that I'm using that scene as an example.
Hmm.
But it comes up like 2 or 3 times throughout, and it's just like,
Okay, well, I'm going to take a pass because there's not really anything I found particularly bad about this. So let's move on to best scenes, and Matt, you are first.
Best scenes. Come on, I got to refresh it because all of a sudden it's locked up. I think best scenes. One of the ones I'd go with, I guess, would be Owen confronting the murderer in his
Oh,
house.
God damn it, Matt.
Ah,
Right off the
Oh.
bat. Right my choice. And he's sitting there, and every word he's just twitching.
You could see him clenching
Yeah.
his fingers and everything. Yeah, you could just see the tension in the guy as he knows everything Owen is saying is true, and then shoots him out of the door.
Again, beautiful, beautiful acting by the late Gareth Thomas. All right. Aaron, how about you? You're the best scene.
I'm gonna like. I know it comes before a chase scene, which I just kind of dumped on a little bit, but like I like how Owen is walking along after being kicked out of the guy's apartment, and he suddenly comes across Bernie Harris in the park. He's like, "Bernie Harris!"
Bernie Harris.
takes off after him.
No.
I mean, that was a good intro into a chase scene.
Yeah, it really was.
And mind you, me dumping on the chase scene is really just me nitpicking, to be honest.
Yeah, the same
I
with
didn't really hate them all that much.
Yeah, it's also the same by mentioning the clunky relationship extra stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, Bill, how about you?
I'm gonna go with the first memory scene.
The
When Gwen
boy
just has
lost in
no
the
idea
train
what's
station.
going on, and there's the lost boy.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was handled really well. It was kind of, a really good atmosphere.
All right. Tim?
I really love the scene with Gwen alone in her apartment using the device to like relive the memories of her boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
That was also going to be another one of mine.
That was really good.
Mhm. It made me wonder, like, if maybe this is what the device that whoever made it originally intended it for is like. It's the alien equivalent of like a photo album that.
That's interesting.
A photo album, or maybe even a coping device or something like that. Yeah.
Okay. So for mine, I'm going to cheat a little. And I'm going to mention 2 scenes that were consecutive to each other. And one of them is basically following that same chase scene that we brought up. And Bernie's there. It's like, don't hurt me. Please don't hurt me. And Ben Owen's like, hurt you? I'm gonna bloody kill you.
Mm-hmm.
And then it cuts immediately to them talking it over in a pub over beers.
Yeah.
Just the irony of that.
Yes. I'm going to kill you slowly with alcohol. Your liver will atrophy.
Because
Drinky,
I could almost see what happened off camera. It's like, no, seriously, mate, let's go get a beer and talk. Yeah. Okay, so best scenes to worst scenes. And Matt, you're up first again.
Worst scene. Trying to pinpoint a worst scene. Actually, no, that'd be severely nitpicky. I'm running dry on worst things tonight.
Yeah.
I'll have to pass for now and see if I can think of something again.
Okay, Aaron, worst scene.
I'm gonna say the dream sequence where we see Gwen holding the knife. It wasn't.
God damn it, Aaron, that was my
It
only
was a
one.
little bit like I think it was just the special effects. Maybe it was the matting that they did for the green screen. It kind of she popped out of the background a little too much. I get that she was supposed to be a ghost and that she was supposed to be really in your face and she needed to stand out. But at the same time, and also kind of her acting, I didn't quite like it. I felt it was a little bit stiff.
Yeah, that was my complaint about it.
Even though she was, even though she was crying and that, but she was a little too frozen. She was just like, she wasn't sobbing all that much or anything like that. So.
Well, also, with the other flashbacks, you actually got like their inner thoughts. And you the emotion of what was going on, and that really wasn't portrayed too well in that particular scene. It left too much in a big question mark based on what they had established from how the thing was used previously. So that bothered me about that scene. It was like they rushed that one, it felt like. Like, yeah, we need to put this in, so we're going to have to do this, but we don't have that long to do it, so I'm going to write it quickly and you're going to act it. Go. Yeah. Bill, how about you?
All right, so I'm going to go with the Gwen Jack flirting Gunny scene, partially because looking back at it, the whole thing with this leads absolutely nowhere, so it just feels like a big waste of time. The first time I watched it, it was like, that's kind of odd, but if it's going somewhere, okay. And now that I know it's really not going anywhere, I'm just like, why?
Yeah, no, you're watching it you're watching it the first time, and it's like, yeah, those two are going to do it before the season's done, and they never do.
Right. I think the writers it seems as if the writers kept going back and forth as to whether they wanted that to happen or not. I don't know if that's true or not.
Well, I kind of figured Captain Jack would just be the Captain Kirk and would do it with everybody. I figured he would have had sex with the entire cast of Torchwood before the end of the first season. That was my prediction, because it's freaking Captain Jack.
Right.
Smooth operator.
Yeah. But no, never did. The only one he ever did was Ianto, but,
Yeah, I'm going to kind of agree, Bill. I think that's probably the one that most rubbed me the wrong way. It's like, didn't feel right.
Okay, Tim, how about you?
Grasping at straws, I don't like the way when they're, Owen is chasing Bernie through the neighborhood, Bernie isn't stopped by the chickens. That's a missed opportunity. It is like, it would have been fun if the chickens all jumped on Bernie and saying, "We got him, Owen."
So, in other words, you really don't have anything, and we're just pulling this out of your ass.
Yeah. So I'll just take a pass.
Yeah.
Like, there were really no bad scenes in this.
Torchwood isn't a slapstick farce. It's a complaint. It's not Monty Python's Torchwood.
This is right out. You're here for my solicitor.
Oh, God, if it was Monty Python, imagine that chase scene. Oh, God, exploding penguins! Gotta touch the foot! Oh, God, it's Mr. Gumby! Oh, get him! Oh, God. Yeah, no.
No one expects the Spanish Inquisition.
Oh. Yeah, on an aside on that, I've only recently discovered what a huge production Eric Idle did with Monty Python live almost, and now I really have to see that. But, yeah. Anyway, so I really do not have a worse scene. To be honest, I was I had originally forgotten about this episode, and I went back and watched it, and I was very pleasantly surprised with it. So I don't have a bad scene. So final thoughts. Matt, you are
So
first
going
on
to
the
me
final
for final
thoughts.
thoughts. Other
God.
than us essentially pinching for more or less the same 2 or 3 scenes that were just slightly off, this is actually a pretty well acted and pretty well written story for the most part. And I would also say that some of the side sci-fi stuff that happens, that the end of the episode revolves around, I think is actually where I started to get really into Torchwood, because it actually started to show the main characters as more than cardboard cutouts, which is what they kind of were for the first episode and a half. You
All
start
right.
to unravel the balls.
Okay, Aaron.
I did enjoy this. I liked how it was a little bit more placed in the real world, or at least felt more like it, which kind of brought out it expanded upon the characters, like Matt said, and expanded upon their relationships. We got to see them interact more, and just kind of see how this alien technology can really affect the world around them, and how it can affect people. So, and really kind of bring out the worst in some people as well as the best. So, it kind of sets them apart from like the everyday people who might take it and use it for their own gain, whereas Torchwood takes and stores it away safely, or at least uses it to kind of solve crimes and stuff for the meantime. And that's it for me.
Okay, Bill.
So I like how this starts off as a murder mystery. I do wish that went on a little bit longer, but it is interesting to see that juxtaposed with the whole precognition plot in one episode together. I think I would like it a bit more if it was just, a full murder mystery and they had really, given it a full go instead of getting, doing a partial one and then switching to something else. But it still came out fairly well.
Okay. Tim?
I really loved the themes and ideas this episode brought up. I thought it was well acted, well written, and many of my things I thought was wrong was just my version of like saying, "Oh, here's what I would have done if I had written the story." But like that doesn't mean the choices they made were the wrong choices. So
you would have had the chickens.
You would have had the chickens, and there would have been a musical number.
Yeah.
Of course, it'll be a musical number.
Yeah. But that doesn't mean that this episode doesn't work without that. So.
Would the musical number have come with the first Vision flashback? The Lost Boy would have basically gone, "I'm lost and I don't know where I am" musical.
It's like, yeah.
And then the murder scene would have been a musical number too.
Oh no! The murder scene would have
preceded the musical number.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it would have gone kind of Sweeney Todd-ish.
It would have been a Bob Fosse dance number.
Ah, so choreography.
Yeah. But anyhow, this was a solid episode, I think.
All right. So, like I had mentioned, I'd forgotten about this episode, and I'd forgotten how good it was. And I think the problem is that it's sandwiched between two of the worst episodes of Torchwood, at least in the first 2 seasons. I mean, literally, you look at what's before this is day 1 with the freaking sexually transmitted alien thing.
Mm-hmm.
Lame.
And then the episode after this is Cyberwoman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there's enough bad around it that it almost covers up the one good episode in the middle.
That you tend to forget that it's basically, you think, first episode of Torchwood, shit, then Countryside is basically what goes through your head.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easy to forget this among the crap that's between it, or that's
Mhm.
before and after it, that you forgot that. And I've forgotten how good this episode was and how well acted it was, especially by the guest star. And you really get to see some of the other characters deep down. The sheer amount of loathing that's in Owen's voice when he calls out Bernie's name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you never saw that in Owen up until this point. He's always just been kind of
Right.
in the background snarking
Yeah,
against
he's
the main
always the too
characters.
cool for school guy.
Yeah,
And all of a
It's
sudden
nice
he's just
to
like,
see when-
fuck this asshole.
yeah. And I think it's also because he caught Bernie at a particularly bad moment, because the fact that he's the one that winds up going
Oh, yeah.
after this murderer, which you really wouldn't have thought would have been something Owen would have done.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
that shows the layers.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
when
showed-
we brought it up last week, I think you thought Gwen was the one who did that.
I thought so, yes. Like I said,
She
I
does
have
it a
not
little bit, but not as much as Owen
Mhm.
did this time.
I haven't watched this episode since 2007.
Mm.
It has been 11 years since I watched this episode. When I first watched
Oh,
it,
damn, you're right.
yeah. Since I first watched it when Torchwood came out.
I'm probably
Oh.
closer to 10 or 9, but yeah.
Yeah, because I watched each episode of Torchwood like an addict when it came out, and this is not one I watched again. Countryside, on the other hand, I've watched 3-4 times because it creeps me the fuck out, and we will probably get to that in a year or two. Unless we decide to add more Torchwood to our lineup, I don't know. After watching this one, I think it's perfectly valid that we might think about doing that.
I
Mhm.
thought we already had.
We had watched little bits and pieces
Yeah.
that came in with, like, different themes. Like, we
Mhm.
watched Cyberwoman as part of the whole Cyberman run that we
Yeah.
did.
Otherwise, I think we've only done one at a time, yeah.
Yeah. Because Torchwood is its own thing, and we usually only do it here on John Barrowman's birthday.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But
Although I thought once or twice about doing it on James Marsters' birthday, too.
that would be season 2.
Yeah.
Now, we had thought about doing this whole thing for Chibnall, and that would involve watching some Torchwood, because
That's right. Yeah.
Chibnall was one of the lead people behind this, but, unfortunately...
And I wish he wrote this episode, because I was going to make a joke, considering it's, a murder mystery in the beginning, and that's what he went on to. So I'm like, oh yeah, Chibnall decided to base his career on the episode, but he didn't.
No, he did not. And actually, Countryside, I think, is also a bit of a murder mystery, or at least a disappearance mystery.
Yeah, it starts that way at least.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he did do Countryside.
Haha!
So if anything, he might have gone and based his career off of Countryside.
This episode turned out particularly well for me. Let's keep
Writer
doing that.
Chris Chibnall. Yeah, he did do Countryside. So yeah, you want to know where he got Broadchurch? Countryside. And that's just fucking creepy. 'Cause it made me happy. Ugh. Man, nightmare fuel.
Anyway,
Okay.
before you spoilize that episode,
Hey, you don't know what context yet. Seriously though, that's the best episode of Torchwood, so. Anyway, yeah, I really, really enjoyed this episode. More than I think I did the first time I watched it even. How well it's done, the guest star, everything, just absolutely beautiful.
mm-hmm. So
There were a couple of off scenes, so I can't give it a full 5,
yeah.
but it's going to be a pretty high rating. So, speaking of ratings, let's go to the rating machine, and Matt.
Very easy 4.5. A few fixes, it could have been an easy 5.
All right, 4.5 from Matt. And then I do believe it was Aaron.
I really like this one, so I'm going to give it a 4.0.
4.0 from Aaron. And then it's Bill.
I think a 4.0 as well.
4.0 from Bill. Tim.
I'll stand with Matt and give this a 4.5.
4.5. Yeah, I have to agree with those two and give it a 4.5. I very much enjoyed it. All right. And that, if I X out Thomas's contribution, averages us out to a 4.3, which will put us pretty far up the list. .3 will put us at number 52 out of 239 episodes of Doctor Who related products reviewed. 56, damn. It is on par with The Three Doctors, Nightmare in Silver, Shadow of Death, Babel Spear, The Ice Warriors, The Dalek Invasion of Earth, The Last Centauran, The Web of Fear, Shada, Spearhead from Space, Waters of Mars, Ark in Space, wow, Enemy of the Bane, The 10th Planet, Silence in the Library, Forest of the Dead, The Last Christmas, The Unquiet Dead, Terror of the Autons, The War Games, and Empress of Mars.
Whew.
It is better than Frontier in Space, Destiny of the Daleks, Hellbent, The Power of Krull, End of the Line, Death and the Queen, The Mind Robber, Bad Wolf, Parting of the Ways, and not as good as The Sontaran Stratagem, Poison Sky, Terror of the Zygons, Smoke and Mirror, The Husbands of River Song, The Judgment of Iskar, and Face the Raven. This is actually, these are some of the more prolific numbers we have, but that's the upper four, that's the mid-range fours. So yeah, that's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
52 out of 239.
I don't think Torchwood's going to get that high many more times.
Well, I'm pretty sure Countryside will, but other than that, Countryside might, and some episodes in season 2 might.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing in season 3 or 4.
Are those even seasons?
Well, technically they are. Children of Earth is
a short season. Yeah.
Although I was debating, guys, when we review those, and the eventuality that we will review those, how are we going to deal with Children of Earth?
As 5 hours in one sitting, or has...
Yeah. And Miracle Day, for that matter.
Miracle Day we're not doing in one sitting.
Not binge watching Miracle Day and reviewing it?
No.
Don't think you could stand it, Bill?
It's not good enough to take an entire day off for.
I asked Erin, we were talking about this prior to the stream. Erin said that she would rather watch Miracle Day than watch Children of Earth.
Children of Earth, Children of Earth is more depressing, I think.
It's shorter and more depressing, and just
they cut the happy parts, I think, due to actor availability.
Yeah.
Or budget, or both.
And also, Miracle Day has like all the freaking guest stars. You've got Jan Delancey, Nana Visitor, Bill Paxton. I mean, geez, that list goes on and on. Because, of course, they had stars budgeting it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, yeah, that's going to be interesting how we do that, considering I think Children of Earth is one gigantic storyline. So that'll be fun to do.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's much, much, much later in the future, as we're probably going to avoid doing those as long as humanly possible. So I think that's
2028. I guess we finally have to do it.
Yeah.
All right, so don't
forget. What's that, Billy?
Don't forget to follow us at twitch.tv/Unearthly Podcast and an Unearthly Podcast on YouTube. You can also find us at facebook.com/Unearthly Podcast and twitter.com/Unearthly Pod. And if you want, you can support us over at patreon.com/Unearthly Podcast.
All right, so on next week's show, we will be celebrating our 250th episode.
Wow.
250 episodes. Can you believe we've made 250 episodes?
I cannot believe it.
Well, we're about to.
Yep.
Mm.
Anyway, we're going to take a little bit of a detour in a way of celebration, and we're going to go by analyzing the entire Stephen Moffat era in one sitting. I keep saying we're putting Stephen Moffat to bed. This is the final tuck-in.
Yeah.
This is the final tuck-in and glass of milk and a bedtime story here.
This is us patting the dirt with the shovel and then finally walking away.
Yes. Although, in our case, it may be more of an office spacing. Either way, we will be reviewing seasons 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Jesus, can you believe he made that many seasons?
I believe it took forever.
And looking at the best and worst of all of them, as we will cover the entire Stephen Moffat era, our likes, our dislikes, what we don't, what we enjoyed and what we despised, and I'm going to try not to break into any of my classic rants, which I've said 1,000 times before, but don't count on it.
If you start taking more than 2 minutes on a rant, we'll start moving you on.
So there we go, our 250th episode, the Stephen Moffat era in a nutshell. Tune in next week for that. And afterwards, we're gonna take a week off for our seasonal break.
All right. Have a good night. See you all next time.
Yeah.
Arrivederci.